Well, hello, everybody. It's 11 o'clock on the East Coast, and my computer is arguing with me. Get that sound turned off. There we go. And then let me get myself into the right YouTube channel. And the notice will go out. Who's live right now? Oh, Calypso Antiques. Kat is currently having a sale if anyone wants to go see a sale, because tonight is not a sale. It is a live chat. Go to my channel to work. There we go. There we get put myself in live chat. Well, what's that one? Fan funding. Oh, I didn't know that was on the drop down. I didn't pay attention. Okay, that's probably been there a while and I just never paid attention to it. So, how is everybody doing tonight? I've not had the best week. I will admit it. Weekend was great. Last Thursday was great. I was good till Monday. Monday. And then like mentally everything fogged up and focus and energy levels just crashed and burned. I'm sure some of you have also had that where, you were doing great for a while and then all of a sudden it's like the motor just gives out. You just, that the car hit 200,000 miles and the motor doesn't want to run. That's kind of been the last couple of days for me. It's been a struggle. I think because I had so much going on up here. It's just at a meeting Monday afternoon that was, we were there for 2 or 3 hours trying to figure out what we could do at Scouts for the most kids to get as many of them as close to advancement as we possibly could, and figure out a plan going forward. And it just was really, really rough to try to figure that out and factor in all the variables from 32 kids. And my whole focus had to be like Tuesday and Wednesday was just all on that. And once it was over and all that, everything else, though, I just couldn't, like anything else here at home, I couldn't focus on it. I really struggled this week. Tuesday and Wednesday, even if it wasn't Scout related, I just could not seem to keep my focus on it. My mind would wander. I would find myself doing stuff that was absolute wastes of my time. So here's an example. There's a website called listchallenges.com. And whoops. And I went in, how can I put that? That's gotta go to the kitchen. I hadn't been on that site in a long time. So I go in and I'm just looking and it has lists of things like, have you ever read these books? Have you read these? Have you seen these movies? Have you traveled to these places? There's all kinds of categories. And I thought, I haven't done this in a long time. Because something popped up in my Facebook about it. So I went, I think somebody had shared a list. Well, honestly, you'd think I was a crack addict for lists because I did one, well, then I did another one, and then I did another one, and then I did another one. And next thing I know, I'd lost an hour and a half. It's not good. It's not good. I feel I would have been more productive if I'd actually spent an hour and a half reading a book and gotten lost that way and lost not getting stuff done. I get it that we all need to take mental breaks sometimes, especially when we're really chugging along and doing well. We sometimes need to take mental breaks, especially when you're surrounded by visual clutter, because there is all this clutter here. But then I focus on the wrong things. It's been like that. all of Wednesday, except for at Scouts that night, all of today has just been, I don't feel like I've gotten a blasted thing done. Yet I have to have done something because I have 2 full trash cans out there that are not from the kitchen trash, but are from stuff that either never came into the house from helping the friend clean out, or just stuff from here, but it was stuff from like the basement, or clearing out all the trash bags from all the other rooms. Because we have a little can in the bathroom, and my son's trash, and trash from my bedroom. So, and then stuff from around the house too. So it just, I know that at least is something out the door, but it's just nothing else. Nothing else. I'm very frustrated. I'm very frustrated. And I understand that that's okay. But sometimes you just do need to feel that frustration. I sent out that nice big packet of stuff. I have 1 package ready here. 1. Poor Kathy. This sat here for 2 days. I did this 2 days ago, and I still hadn't invoiced her. It's just been brain fog. It was my turn to cook dinner tonight. Tell me why it took me 2 hours to make a dinner where all I had to do was chop up some chicken into pieces, bread it with flour, throw it in the oil in the pan. I had already had to mix up a packet of General Tso's chicken spices, and I decided to throw some broccoli in with it and then make rice in the rice cooker. And I had cat under my feet. I had brother under my feet. And it's just like every time I had to stop and deal with them, then it took me a good 5-10 minutes to focus on what I was doing. And if you're dealing with a sharp knife cutting stuff up, you really need to pay attention to what you're doing. I almost nipped my finger off. I definitely shortened one of my fingernails. I cut it right, caught it with the knife and cut it right off. Now it did not end up in the dinner. It was on the cutting board, so I threw that in a trash bag. But it's just been hard this week. And I knew something was just back to being really brain fogged. And I do think part of it is not having enough. I haven't been able to get stuff for salads because August was financially just such a rough month that there's no buffer left. And I've got to work on that and get that back up. But at the same time, I have no focus. So I have no vitamin D to take. And because this primary care doesn't believe that I need those vitamins, but all the blood tests keep saying I do. And nobody's tested for magnesium, because odds are if you're low in D, your magnesium's also low, but that's a separate test. That's not in the general one. Hi, Kathy! And so like, I know that you guys have seen it on the Thursday nights, the train of thought jumps. Like that train track's got serious bumps in it the last couple of weeks. But just this week's just super, super bad. Last week was pretty bad. When I went back and rewatched the live sale, my train of thought, boy, that locomotive was zipping all over the place during last week's live sale. I forgot what I was even talking about a couple of times. It's really kind of funny, but it's not funny when you're experiencing it. So I wanted to make sure, like, what is the real problem here? And I started looking up some YouTube videos today. And absolutely, a magnesium and a D vitamin deficiency absolutely can cause all this brain fog, which I kind of thought, because I haven't had any time out in the yard today. I haven't been out in the sunlight at all. And that was her answer, is just be out in the yard. You need to be outside more. The amount of D3 I am low, I was on 10,000 milligrams of D3 prescription and had to take one every day. It's that low that I was on that high a dose. And most of the stuff when you buy it, it's not that high. It's not that high a dose. So, hey, Harry. So one thing I learned is that can be a cause, but there is such a thing as mental clutter, which I had not heard of before and was really surprised about. So I thought I would share that with you guys tonight. What I had learned about this is because not only does we all know the visual clutter can get to you in your own house, and the mental clutter, you saw that was starting last week, because remember there was a bag that I kept saying I wanted for the sale, stuff I wanted to sell that night and couldn't find it. I feel like an idiot. It's 4 feet that way. It's sitting right there. I kept walking past it the entire day, the entire afternoon, the entire evening. It's right there. And I kept walking past it because there just had been so much clutter in my head. And this mental clutter that they talked about, they said it can be a problem that can lead to having too much going on in your own life, where you put things down, you forget where you put them, you create piles of stuff and forget what's in them, or you defer decisions. Sounds a lot like all the stuff that they talk about for people who don't intentionally hoard, and for people who intentionally hoard. It's a symptom for both. Because there are people that they don't consciously think of that. It's not that they buy stuff, it's that they don't deal with stuff. And they have a stack of, old bills and mail this high on the kitchen table. It's because they aren't actively, hi Sherry, they aren't actively taking care of those decisions right then. They just defer it, right? See, Val, you know what I mean. So I never thought of that. I never thought of it as mental clutter. And oh yeah, I am looking for a new primary. Because my brother and I share a car. I'm trying to find one that's along the bus route, so that if I have to take the bus, I can, because I have a bus pass. I have to put more money on the bus pass, but I have one. And the sad part is like this primary care, her location was perfect because she's in the same building that the spine doctor's in. So it was like, this is perfect. She's in the same place. She has the same building as the gynecologist and the spine doctor. Perfect. Not perfect. She's not a nice doctor. Got the bedside manner of a drill sergeant. And an attitude about taking vitamins. She's like, yeah, that's overrated. Never heard a doctor say vitamins were overrated before. But the mental clutter, the thing that they said is the biggest tip off that you have it is when you are talking to people, like I do with you guys, and you completely lose your train of thought while you're talking to somebody. How many times have you guys seen me do that? I've had like too much on my mind that week by how many times you see me do that during a live. Y'all know you have seen me do that. You know you have. You know you have. So I was like, okay, well, if this is what it is, and yes, we all have that little voice in our head that talks to us, or that we think of different things. But it's like, then how do you control that? Hi, Grace. And I was really surprised, and I should have kept it. There was a doctor that was being interviewed on YouTube talking about mental clutter that I found. And he said that he was actually talking about fasting. And he said, there are people that have to use fasting for mental clutter. And so my ears picked up and I'm like, what? So he said that, and he was right. And then I found other videos that talked about it specifically from people who study how the brain works. And he said you sometimes have to fast your brain, stop it from doing things it's doing. So how many times in the course of a day might you think of someone or something and go, I really don't like that. I don't like that person. They're a pain in the neck. Or you don't think good thoughts about something or someone. Try catching those thoughts and being aware of those random thoughts for an hour and stop them and go, you know what? No, I'm not gonna think that. And I never thought of that. Because I'll tell you, living with Gary, I know I think several things in the course of a day that I would never dare say out loud because I really wouldn't want to hurt him. I know he's got a heart of gold, but he's got the judgment skills of a 14-year-old sometimes, and it's just frustrating. So, I do that. I admit it, I do that. I do that on a daily basis, usually about him. And the guy pointed out, the doctor that was talking, he said, you have to sometimes do a mental fasting so that what it does is you have to then be aware of how you're thinking. It's like flexing a muscle. If you're aware of how you're thinking and what you're thinking, and you suddenly go, oh, wait, no, that's not a nice thing, and it's not really true, I'm just frustrated, I'm not going to think that. I'm just going to nip it in the bud. And then make yourself think of it. If you can't think of something nice to say in your head, then think of something different that is a nice thought that makes you happy. Just don't force yourself to try to think of something good if you really dislike that person or that thing that you're thinking about. But shift gears and then think to something nice. So he said, and he's right, because I tried it today for an hour, and it's not as easy as you think. It really isn't. And it definitely is flexing your brain. But he said we get to the point, every person does this, where we have this running monologue that goes on in our heads, and we don't really pay any attention to it. And it is a lot of mental clutter that may not be helping us, because it stops us truly from focusing on the good things, the things that we want to be thinking about, want to be focused on. We've all had those days where we have just had to hit, especially trying to go to bed at night. We've had too many things rattling around in our head, and we can't focus on any one to get rid of them. Yes, you have to have mindfulness. And I've heard that used about being mindful of what you're doing, what you're physically doing. But I've never heard the mindfulness approach be used towards your own mind and how your mind is working, of how that inner monologue is working. And I've never heard it used on that before. I mean, at Scouts, we had a comment that I did with each group of Scouts that came to my station, taught them what they needed to know, but then brought up something else that ties into a lot of the training stuff, is being mindful of what you're doing and how important it is, especially because this is something that they all had to take turns doing in the axe yard. An axe yard is a safe, cordoned off area where someone will be in there with the axe or a saw, chopping wood or cutting wood for a campfire. No one is allowed in that area except the one person. That's what keeps it safe. In Scouts, there's a very specific way you handle a knife, an axe, a saw. There's a specific way you hand it to another person. And you have to be mindful of this. And I brought up the fact that of times where I know of, 14 years ago, a scout handed a knife to another scout, did not wait for the other scout to take it and say, thank you, and you go, you're welcome. Then you take your hand off of it, because then you know they have a hold of it. He didn't wait, and the knife went. Well, the knife was extremely sharp. It was open, and it went right in through his shoe. And through some miracle, it missed his toes. It went in between the big toe, right in between the big toe and the next toe, through the kid's shoe. And that kid was our senior patrol leader at the time, because he wasn't mindful about being mindful about making sure that the other kid had a hold of it and said, thank you. And then you go, you're welcome, and you let it go. So I let them know that. And I let them know when you have an axe, because you always have to hold it in a way that you're leaving space for the other person to grab it. What do you do with the axe? You have to do the same thing like you would with the knife, but where's the blade? It should always be this way or that way, never towards the other person or towards you. And I know an adult did the thank you, did the you're welcome, didn't pay any attention to where that blade was, and as soon as he pulled back and then lifted it up, it ripped his pant leg right open because it got caught on that sharp corner. So when he lifted up, then the blade pulled and it cut his pant leg open on a pair of brand new Scout pants. And that was the adult. You'd think we adults would know better. Not always. We forget. Meditation does help train your mind. Some people, though, don't. They don't. I do meditate. I don't always get to do it every day, and it does help. But this was about that inner monologue, where several of the things I have for meditation isn't about addressing what that inner monologue is saying, so much as quieting it and kind of stopping it completely for the amount of time that you're meditating. So when you can't meditate, I thought this was interesting, though, to have ways where you are mindful about what's going through your mind, and then try to train it in ways of, one of the things he said, let's see, there were 3. The first one was the negative thoughts, recognize what they are, and go, you know what? No, I'm not going to think that because I don't want to be that person. I'm going to think of this instead. So you try to get negative thoughts towards others out of your head. It takes some doing, but you can do it. The other was the running train of thought where, oh, I have to do this, but I have to do that, and I have to do that. Stop yourself and focus on it, because a lot of times what happens is and I've had trouble with this the last 3 days. I think of 3 or 4 things that have to happen, and it's like, well, I'll go do this one, but that one, I'm not being smart about the choice, because that one may be the easiest one to do, but it's not the one with the highest priority to do. And you have to be mindful of that when there's that many running in your head, you have to pick 3 and which one is the priority. Go do that one. Even if it's not the easiest, do the priority one, because that's one of the things that happens that makes you feel like you have too much on your plate, is because the priority one is usually the first one you've got to let out the door. You've got to get it done. And then usually those are the things that once they're done, they free up a lot of your time, and you have time to get to it. It is a challenge. You have to learn to let certain thoughts go, but to do that, you have to be mindful of that inner dialogue in your head. That is what he kept calling mental clutter. The third one, okay, wait. So it was, deferred decisions. Deferred decision was the third one. And he says, you don't tend to think of them as mental clutter when you put off deciding about something, but they really are, because it's always in the back of your mind. And deferred decisions adds the most to the visual clutter you live with, more so than the conscious mental clutter. That's the stuff that will make you tense and frustrated and you won't quite know why is because you know there's all these decisions that you didn't handle, and they can be simple things like go through your mail when you get it right by the trash can. Okay, there's somebody, I get these all the time. Like I can get things in the mail, and at least once a week, there's somebody who, we buy old houses. Yeah, well, that goes in trash or recycling, whatever, but you get rid of it right away. Don't hang on to it. If it's not something that is important, that's somebody asking for money to a charity you don't give to, or we buy old cars, we buy old houses, there's all kinds of junk mail that comes. Make sure it goes right out the door again. Don't leave it sit with the bills. Make it go away right away. Don't wait. Don't defer the decision. The house I live in was filled with deferred actions. I mean, look, this 8 yards of fabric, remember the note we found? The note we found in my mother's handwriting. This was supposed to be nightgowns, probably for Christmas, for me and 2 of my nieces. And it never got made because it was a deferred action. Something happened where she just never got to it and then didn't do anything with it. And now I've got 8 yards of fabric for sale. So it hit a nerve. It hit a lot of nerves hearing these videos and hearing these talks by people, because they all hit the same thing. That deferred decisions is the sneaky one. It absolutely is. And it can be that it's not even a decision. It's just you defer taking action. And sometimes something like that, the decision probably was not, she probably didn't put off making a good decision about whether to buy it or not. She certainly bought it, but never quite made the time to actually follow it the rest of the way and do it. And this house is full of stuff like that. And I'm guilty of it, or I wouldn't have had so many cross-stitch kits that were in last week's sale or the previous sales when I found them, because those were mine. I thought I was going to do most of those. So I know now, it's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do this. I turned 58 on the 27th. I'm not going to do this. and counted cross stitches is a lot. It's a lot of work. So it was an interesting, it absolutely was an interesting thing to shake me out of some of the brain fog. It's not completely gone. It is definitely not completely gone. Personally, I don't think it's going to be completely gone until I get back to where I'm having a salad every day and then having my magnesium and D3, because that made a huge difference. That made the ability to focus really well. And when I posted that picture on my Instagram of that big tote that was going out, I was still taking the magnesium at least, and was going out in the backyard and trying to work on some of the overgrowth back there. So I was getting at least some D3. It's still too low. Heart doctor said it was still too low. So yeah, hello, Linda. And Maria came in. So that was what I learned about mental clutter. That was all new to me. I know plenty about this kind of clutter. But yeah, that was my mental clutter. So I'm going to work on that. I try to be more mindful of that, especially with dealing with my brother. Because like the one woman of one of the videos I saw said, if you think about it, what amount of energy are you wasting thinking those negative thoughts about something or someone that could be energy you use to actively do something for you to make you happier and to make your life more productive and happy? So there's a valid point there. Definitely a valid point there. So yeah. Meanwhile, I still have to empty stuff out of the car because I was over at the lady who's I'm helping empty out. She had stacks of stuff for me to go through there were 4 stacks, each one was 3 feet high, of just papers and all kinds of stuff for me to go through. Hello, Gravity Goods. Cool name. So I had to laugh because looking at some of that, I thought, this is definitely a deferred decision. When she told me that all these papers I was going through had been her mother's. Now, this lady has admitted to being in the vicinity of 80. Now, if these things were her mother's, how long has she held on to them? They were things like hymns for singing that were pasted on a piece of cardboard so that she could hold it up and and it was made a little bit bigger, but it was on a big piece of cardboard so that they use that to teach the kids to sing. And there were pictures cut out from old coloring books, and I mean like 1940s coloring books that were on there, and it would say, this is a cow, this is a cat, this is a mouse. Because I think she said her mother taught, not only did she teach Sunday school, but her mother taught kindergarten. And this was a ton of cardboard that I'm like, I can't actually do anything with these. So we put them all into a paper bag, and we filled, I think, 4 paper bags, if not 5. 5. We got 5 paper bags filled, and I packed them tight for recycling. Just to go out and recycling, because there was nothing I could do with this stuff. But she kept it. She got it all after her mother died. Well, if you're now in the vicinity of 80, dear, how long ago have you been holding on to this stuff? And it was all because, oh, but I might need that. That's a bad phrase for us, isn't it? I might need that. Nah. I've broken that habit pretty well. Mike has helped me with that habit because he flat out will ask me, what's your plan? Do you actually have a use for this, or is this just going to sit here? So, one of the things he went over with me, because we went back, because she had some 4x4s in the garage and she wanted to know if I needed any lumber. Well, I didn't need all that lumber, but the 4x4s I could use, because in the back part of the house that that the playroom is over, and I'm sitting, let's see, the window's there. So yeah, I'm sitting over top of part of that. Part of the house, they dropped the foundations of the stone walls, but they never dug it out. They also didn't put any supports in there on top of the dirt up on any of the rafters. And one set of rafters isn't really solid. Like most of the house, the 1911, the rafters are this thick and this high, and they're fine. One of them has a crack in it, I noticed. So that one needs some attention. But yeah, see, I've inherited from 3 different estates that had that didn't know that 30-day rule. But I know I need supports, and a 2x4 is not going to do it. But somebody, when they added onto the house in 1935, just didn't bother to get good solid beams for where the 2 houses meet. And so they ran 5 2x4s all together like this, running down, and didn't support them with anything. So they're starting to show a little bowing. So that's why I said we're going to take the 4x4s because they're short. They were fence posts, so they're only about they're not quite they're not 4 feet long, but they're definitely more than 3. So they're about 3.5 feet. But those I can cut to size and jam them under there, and now that odd, weird little thing with all the 2x4s will have support. The fun part will be getting in there. I may have to hire one of the former scouts to do it because I am not as young and as flexible as I once had been. So, but they have a use. They absolutely have a use. There's an absolute need. And the price of lumber is insane. So she just saved us a lot of money by letting us bring home these 4x4s. So that I totally understand. But she tried to give us a metal table that is an old, remember the old, and I mean old, like 40s, 1940s through the 50s, maybe into the 60s, typewriter tables that were a metal table on wheels. And then they had on either side of the tabletop were pieces that could flip up. She had one of them in the garage and she tried to give it to me. And I thought, I'm not, I'm not, I'm not lifting that sucker. There was a point in time when I would have said, sure, I'll take it. And I would have taken it for the scrap metal. But I've got too much on my plate as it is. So, and hers having been out in the garage, it has a lot of rust on it. And I thought, I'm not going to take that. And I said, look, have you tried even lifting up those sides? Because it was underneath a workbench. I said, that might be rusted fast because I could see rust all on the legs. You might want to just put that out at the curb and somebody on trash night, I can guarantee you, will take it for scrap. They'll take it for the scrap metal. But there was a time I would have grabbed it for the scrap metal, but nah. I have too much to deal with here. So I am trying to learn to set limits on what I'm willing to do. And yeah. Well, I mean, there are things that if I'm not going to use it in 30 days, I will keep it because it's for holidays. So that makes sense. But yeah, I know. So, because, this house is just overloaded because of inheriting from 3 different people, and they were all pack rats. So it's been a challenge. I do have one thing that will be leaving. I have to find a box, though. From the drop sale that's up of the cookbooks, someone wants the Fanny Farmer, but it's got to go to Canada. I have 3 things to Canada that I will deal with in the morning, absolutely, because Happy Days needs to have her stuff. Sherry, darling, Michael put that shoe in its box in a safe place, and I've not found it yet, but I will get that to you. And then this one needs to go to Canada. And I do not like just shoving books that thick into a padded mailer, especially if it's going that far. I don't trust the post office if it's got to go out of the country. So, would you like some eye candy to see tonight? Since we now had all this talk about mental clutter and what I learned. I have a box. We're not going to sell any of it tonight because decisions have to be made. Some of it's dusty. I got to clean it. And I have made a decision that my birthday night, that's probably going to be a Christmas sale. So on the 26th, that sale will probably be all Christmas stuff. I might even make it into my own, stuff in my attic is kind of far away, but let me go get this box and we'll have some eye candy fun. No, we're not going in there. You little lunatics try to climb up into the ceiling in there. You are not going in there. All right, which one of you knocked over that thing of sellotape? No, you're not going out there. Who knocked it over on you? This was in the pantry. It's an early version of saran wrap. So some of you are getting your fabric and stuff wrapped in that to keep it tight and so it doesn't bounce around in the thing. But that thing's heavy. There had been an even bigger one that actually was cellophane. I've got in the playroom about as far as I can go right now without taking an entire day to list books. I found quite a few books that are all worth $25 or more. They need to get online. And so I really need to spend a day where I'm just getting that stuff done and out of the way. Because I don't want to pack them up again. I don't mind packing up books that I know I want to keep because I definitely want to read them. But I need to get more stuff listed. And I know so far I've only been working on like little small things, but I need to get those books out of the way because once they're out of the way, I can get through more of the boxes that are out there. So this was one thing. Nora, no, I haven't. And it's upstairs. All right. I'll show you a few things and then I'll go get it. Oh, yeah. Those big rolls. Yep. I love yellow glass. And I don't mean the amber color. I mean like a true yellow. Come here, little padded envelope. See, this one is definitely yellow. I don't think you'll be able to see the pattern. I think, because the pattern, you can kind of see it there. That's even better. There you go. I think this might be Lancaster glass. I'd test to see if it would glow if I could find while we did the desk this way, there's still stuff that going that way. So I can't find my black light. But I think this is one of the Lancaster glass patterns. Now, I have a couple of pieces of Lancaster yellow glass that is the darts pattern, but this is just beautiful. I love that. I have a bowl. The first time I found out it was Lancaster glass, it was, I think 3 years ago now. But I had picked up a box of stuff from off a curb, and there was a gorgeous Lancaster glass piece in there, and it had the Sphinx on it. Apparently, that's hard to find. But when we have the Black Hole Challenge room done up, one of those china closets is going to be my yellow glass so that I can enjoy it. So this was one of the things she gifted me, and I was so happy. It was so pretty. She had no idea that I liked vintage yellow glass either. She had no idea. Now, this I've got to see if this is for on, this is a Corning ware. I might be able to sell this as a replacement piece. It's some weird Corning ware handle. And this is Corning ware as well. I don't think it's ever been used. There's no wax or anything in there. Hey, Retro Ruby. So some of the stuff in here, I have to look it up, and I haven't. Pampered Chef stuff usually has a decent price. So there's a replacement piece. still in the original box. But remember I had those other Jingle Bells? These are even older. And these are the old metal ones. Still on the card. So I had at the last sale, I had one. But this one, you can tell, these are even older. There's a, what is this? This is the instructions for Sears Croquet. From heaven knows how long ago. This came with it, a croquet coach. These are the weird kind of things that sometimes can end up being big money. As I've found over the years, this is another Pampered Chef thing. A couple of replacement lights. Look, a little CVS, little mousy for the holidays. He's still in his little plastic bag. She never had him out. Look at those ears. Dude could be Dumbo. Oh, you think it might be Lorraine? The pattern or the glass maker? I've never heard of a glass maker named Lorraine. But this was a giveaway for CVS. But there's no date to know how long ago. Is there? Oh, yeah, there's a date on him. He's from 1994. She's never had it out of the box, but must have ripped the box a little bit. So we'll hang on to him for the birthday sale. This is just an odd. Those are the little red things. There's some tiny little bells. And then there's these teeny little Santa flags. They'll be in it. This little guy. Oh, I know why she got this. She says she loves the scent of bayberry, and that's what this candle's supposed to smell like. 2005 from CVS. But so there's a Santa. Still got his candle in there, never used. Now, I don't know if these are both. Who is this? 1977. A collection of holiday classics. Now, there's two of them. This one has a little gold sticker that says Nativity. Oh, these are those lucite ones. Yeah. Remember in the 70s? These things were all the rage to have these lucite ornaments came out. I wonder if they're both Nativity. Let's see. See what the other one is. No. Oh my goodness. It's owls. It's owls. Absolutely have to have that for my birthday thing, because I have a bunch of owl things to sell that night and to be giveaways. So we have an owl one. So now these I think I can get rid of. These were in here, and they're just random little saucers. None of the cups. American Limoges Salem Heritage Collection. Blue Bouquet, Japan. So they would have been nice, but I don't need to keep those. And I'm not sitting them on top of my yellow glass. Sit those there. Now, I forget who would have made that. If Blanco put out a couple of these things, but I don't know if this one's a Blanco or not. But that's a nice piece of glass, and then they press the image in. But these are kind of weighty to use as a Christmas ornament, but that is a nice angel. But there's no... The problem with Blanco stuff is there's no real marking on it. I have no idea what this is. It says Sunkissed. It says Sunkissed. You won't be able to see that, but it has a rose and it says Sunkissed on there. But I have no idea what on earth. It's got teeth to it at the bottom. No idea what that is. Little bit of plastic greenery. Okay, guys, help me out here. What is it? I have no idea. I've seen small things like this that would be for honey, but this is huge. What is this? I don't know what this is. Yeah, this seems like it screws down in to do something. So what? You're supposed to then, oh, I see. You're supposed to squeeze the orange then and then be able to pour it out. That's different. This is a whisk like that? Cuz see, look at the you see it actually has a little thing like you could pour something out. Yeah, that's this one. You stick it in the orange and okay. So it just seems so odd. I mean, I've seen ones like this for scooping honey in the tea, but that is really big. I didn't know what that was. And then there's there's like 3 or 4 of these little guys with this is, I remember having these kits when I was a kid where you painted the wooden ones and this is the string for them. The ones I had never had decent string. And I remember having one of them as a kid that didn't have a thing to paint the backs. All the backs didn't have anything on them, so you only painted the fronts. I like these. You painted both sides. Somebody did a good job too. So there's 4 of those. And oh, this says Corningware. This must be the burner candle that goes with the other thing. I don't know what these are. These look like something you'd use for there's some kind of writing on that green, but I can't get the light to reflect well enough to see it. These almost look like something you'd use for pottery. We're working on pottery. Now, oh, Christmas hooks. There's some that are loose, and I have to figure out if they go to any of these. Now, I may keep the loose ones because I have planned to make some Christmas stuff. But I have this box and this box and this box. But wait, there's another one. I never find these in the original boxes. Never find these in the original boxes. So I will make sure that they all have the amount they're supposed to. Do we have a year? We have a year that I can't flip and read. I think it says 1966. So these suckers are a year younger than I am. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it says 1966. So I will see if it has a count on there of how many. Oh, there's supposed to be 15 total. Fireproof double glow, 15 for 59 cents, and our aluminum foil. So I will try to make sure that each box has the right amount. And I'm hoping that some of these are extras and weren't meant to be in a box, because if that's the case, I may have to keep a whole box. Simply because I have an idea for these. You know these are old because you see that? That's cardboard. They have the cardboard back so that it has the little tabs to put them over the lights. And some of these are different. These are a little different because this one in the box has a different kind of tab. See, these are rounded. And it's a white piece of paper. thick like cardstock. So I'll have to take a look at them and see. But those will be at the sale. Those will definitely be at the sale. An old price tag in the box. We could throw that in the trash. Odd bits of string. But that's what was in this. And there's one other thing that I want to show you. Carefully put this stuff back in here. So there has to be space for this box, other box to fit back in. Because in the original box is a mercury glass tree topper from Frank. Frank's the name. Made in the USA, but no date. Now, I haven't taken it out of the box, so I'm praying it's in one piece. It is. It's all in one piece. Isn't that beautiful? And so tall. Y'all gonna be fighting for this the night of that party. So, in its original box, there's a little piece, she's got a little piece of tissue paper down in there. I know I'm putting it back into the box upside down, but that's the way I found it. So, and the box is, the lid's missing its, but man. Egg separator. Oh, that makes sense. That makes total sense because it's got that little dip to pour something back out. That makes total sense. Now, that's why it's so big. That is cool. I'll have to show that to Mike. He might want to keep that. He hates separating eggs. I do it back and forth into the halves of the eggshell because that's what I grew up doing. But him, he hates that. You collect the tree toppers? Well, make sure you're here on October 26th for the sale. Oh man. Yeah, I mean I know some of those tree toppers like can be crazy money. I will have to make sure that I make a thumbnail and a preview video for that birthday party sale. Let's see what it's got. Just for giggles here. Let's see. First we got to find one that is about the same age. That's a newer one for 20. 27. Those are all newer. Yeah, I'm not finding one with a box like this that's this old. Oh, wow. That box of Shiny Brights would be $29.95. I know that box. I'm not giving those up, though, if I find them. They're tiny little Shiny Brights in a box, and they're only like that big, and they're shaped. They're every one of them. There's balls, there's bells, there's odd little shapes. I grew up with those little ones, and so yeah, I would. But yeah, I'm not finding any as old. And I did put in for that particular maker. So yeah, not as sold. So we'll see what happens that night. We will see what happens. And And I can't go get that box right now because I'm not interrupting Grumpy. There's another box that had another tree topper in it. And that tree topper, I don't think was made in the US because it has, I did look up the company. And I was trying to find sold comps for ones that were as old as that. And I didn't find sold comps for a box that old. I did see some, and the prices of what they were asking for kind of jump all over. Didn't see a green one, though, like this one. But the other one is the box like the stuff that I remember seeing that would come from Germany, where it was just the plain cardboard box with the funny little staples holding the sides in. I know we have some old boxes like that with big German blown glass balls that were from my great-grandparents. And there is it's a little smaller than this tree topper. It's probably about 3 inches shorter, and the ball itself is probably more that size, so bigger than a ping pong ball, but not as big as a chicken's egg, really. That one's in that kind of plain box, just plain cardboard box, and that one is another mercury glass topper. So I'll have 2 toppers that night. Yeah, I mean, the guess would be that's easily, because it's the big thing I know that can affect the and this is where, like, all our old Christmas ornaments that we grew up with, all the shiny brights, where it would definitely affect them if I were to sell those off, is that this still has that crystallizing. All that crystal that's glued on there is in pretty good shape. Now, you can see on right there, it's fading a little right towards the end there. But most of the crystal is still there. And if that's worn off, that can really affect the value of old mercury glass. And our stuff, most of our Christmas balls that we had that were me growing up, they were old shiny brights from like the end of the 40s. And they got used my entire life. So, and they were used long before me, because, you know, my parents were married in, I think, in 47 or 48. 47, because then Steve came along a few months later. So, yeah. So they are well worn, and a lot of them, you know, they aren't perfect. But yeah. And yeah, sometimes the boxes can change the colors sometimes. I know that's a problem. The other thing that's a problem is that there was a point in time where they would sell those aerosol cans of snow to put on your tree. Yeah, they used to do that in my family. And I'll tell you, it ruins the stuff it hits. Because some idiot decided to put it on the tree, not me, but they decided to put it on the tree after the tree was already decorated. So that crap got all over the balls. Yeah, I know. I think I was about 12 when I complained to Mom about it. And she's like, well, if you think you can get that stuff off. And I know I did try with a Q-tip to carefully get some of that snow crap off of them. But on quite a few of them, it just lifted. It just, wherever it was, it took some of the color right off of them. So ours were well loved, and are in the attic where I can't get to them. I can't. I know a lot of people would like to get their hands. Sarah from Thrift You used to tease me. She's going, you know, I'll get into that attic. Put me up for the night. I'll come down and get into that attic. And I just laugh because I'm like, yeah, but I don't have an empty room to put you in. So that's just, I saw that and I was like, that's it. Then I'm definitely, that's going to be so much fun if I make that my Christmas sale and have it then. And that way there's plenty of time, get it out the door to everybody. and they have it for Christmas, and I just loved it. I couldn't stop grinning. That was just, I mean, heck, just even looking at it, I'm just so happy to have found that. That is such a cool thing that she gave me. And I'm like, oh wow, you're getting rid of this? She goes, yep, you can have it. So I don't need it. I've never. Then she said, I don't think I've ever even used it. I think that came from my mother's. Okay. Okay. Actually, let's put this way back in the box. Yeah, when I was growing up, they used tinsel. I hated tinsel. I hated tinsel because the animals in the house would eat it, and then that's nasty when it's coming back out. That's not fun. Let's carefully sit you there. So yeah, no. After seeing my mother have to help a cat with Kittle, Miss Kittle ate some tinsel and then had problems in the litter box, and seeing my mother as a young child, seeing her as a grown-up have to help a cat do her business, I was off tinsel ever since. And Mom, around here for the longest time, the city wouldn't take the tree. You had to put the tree out by the curb. If the tree had tinsel on it, they wouldn't take it. So we'd have the fun. I would have the fun, of having to get all that tinsel back off the tree. And one year my mom said, yeah, we used to have to keep the tinsel. Like, what do you mean keep the tinsel? She goes, oh yeah, when tinsel first came out, Nanny and Poppy made us take the tinsel off and put it back into a little bag so we'd have it for next year. I would have screamed. I would not. No, I'm not saving this nightmare stuff. No. Oh, I just could not imagine saving the tinsel. No. Just no. That's not going to be a thing. That is so not going to be a thing. One thing I know, and it's a shame, we always had some kind of animal in our house. You guys did that too? You saved the tinsel? Well, and true, the tinsel back then was a little different, because I've come across some old tinsel that if you handled it wrong, you could get a paper cut off of it, because the real old tinsel was really sheets of little thin strips of aluminum, the stuff from my grandparents. And I remember getting a paper cut type cut on my finger when I was little with the stuff they had. And I noticed that it over time, it would kind of start to discolor a little. But yeah, they used to keep the tinsel. Not putting tinsel. No. It looks pretty if it's draped right, but you need an awful lot of it. And Dad would go out on Christmas Eve to get the tree, because apparently that was a tradition in both their families growing up, when they were growing up in the 1930s, that Santa also brought the tree. Now I connected real quick to the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, because by the time I came along, there was no pretense that Santa was bringing the tree. Thank goodness. But back in the days with my older siblings, the older three, Santa had to bring the tree and decorate it and all the presents. No. I can't say I'd ever want to do that either. So for them, it was that way. So we never got our tree before Christmas Eve, which to me seemed such a waste to only have it up for maybe 2 weeks. Although Mom would be always so loath to take it down that we actually had a Christmas tree one year until Valentine's Day. And that was the saddest looking Charlie Brown tree that you would ever want to see. Dad would go out bragging about how cheap the trees were that he would get. He'd wait till Christmas Eve, and then he would take the cheapest tree on the lot, which usually was there because it was crooked, it was either too fat, too short, or had big holes in it where it just didn't grow right. And that would be our tree. We had a cinder block that we would use routinely for Christmas, kept it in the attic all year long because it was the cinder block for the Christmas tree. Because these trees would be so discombobulated that they would not stand on their own. Most of the time they weren't straight, and to get them straight meant you had to do weird things to them in the stand. But then they would be so top heavy that they, even with the stands with 4 legs, the suckers would tip over. So we had to weigh it down with a cinder block. And this was a thing. This wasn't a once in a while. This was a thing. This is why we kept the cinder block in the attic with the Christmas stuff for the rest of the year, because we knew we'd have to keep it. There's actually, did I finally take it out, or is it still up there? It might still be up there. I can't tell from here. There's a door jamb right here, and then the archway is here. So there's a plug over here that turns on when you flip the switch out in the hallway. So that would turn the light on. So that was always usually where the Christmas tree was, because that way you could just flip the switch out in the hallway, it would turn all the lights off, it would turn the Christmas tree off, you go to bed. Well, there was one point where the tree was there and they put a nail in the top of the door frame here because they had a string that went from there through the tree, and then there's a big mirror back there on the wall, and they put the other end on the nail that's holding, one of the nails that's holding up the great big mirror, because it was so cockeyed and out of whack that the cinder block alone could not hold this thing up. So yeah. Yeah. We had our share of trees, but the Christmas Eve thing drove me crazy because they wouldn't wrap the presents. My mother wouldn't wrap any presents till Christmas Eve. I wanted, like, the friends' parents had an open house on Christmas Eve. And as a teenager, I'd always want to go. If I was there for more than an hour, my mom would call up saying, "Send her home. We got to decorate a tree." I hated it. I hated it. You're wrapping packages for, not just for me, Roy, and Gary, but packages for Dad, packages from Santa, not only for us, but for the grandchildren, which at that point then there was Sarah, Jennifer, Kimberly, Jason, and Becky. So you've got the 5 grandchildren, plus she'd have stuff for Steve and Sue, who were in California, and I would keep telling her, we don't need to wrap those tonight. They can wait. We don't need to wrap them tonight. They're not going to be here. They can wait. Took about 3 years before she would just leave theirs off to the side. But then you're doing Phyllis and Bob, my sister and her husband, and David and Karen, so my brother and his wife. But then you also had stuff for the great aunts and the grandparents. So you had Granny and Nanny and Poppy. And then you had Annie Al and Annie Floss, the 2 great aunts. So that's a lot of presents. So there'd be presents not only from her and Henry, but we were expected to get presents for them as well. So there'd be presents from Gary to the great aunts, and from Roy, and from me. Now, I at least would pick out my own, but that's a lot of packages to wrap. And she'd wait until Christmas Eve. Mine would be done because I would glue the tag onto the wrapping paper, because that was one of her things, was well, if we wrap it early, what if the tag falls off? If the tape comes off, and I'm like, why do you think I use a glue stick? I glue that sucker down. It ain't coming off. It just drove me nuts. I never had, until I honestly think it was after Dad died when I was 30 that I finally got her broken of this nonsense of Christmas tree goes up Christmas Eve, because I want to enjoy the tree. So if there's a day where I didn't have to be at work, the tree was going up so we could enjoy it. And none of this, and I never could break her of that wrapping presents at the last minute bit, though. Never could break her of that one. But she did like having the tree up longer. And she did admit that she didn't know why she fought so hard to like always wait, even though, we were all grown up. Why she always waited till Christmas Eve, because it was nicer to have the tree around longer. And when Frank's Nursery and Crafts in this area went out of business, I got an artificial tree that is what they called an apartment tree. So it's most Christmas trees, when you buy the growth ones, the bases are really wide when you get a natural one. But this one is tall, but it's narrow. It's only, I think the base is only 3 feet wide at the bottom. So it's only like that, and then goes all the way up. I mean, it's an 8-foot tree, but it goes all the way up, and the lights are already on it. It's got white lights already on it. And I got it cheap because they were going out of business, and it was the floor model. So I was like, sold, I'll take it. Because by then I had a lot of ornaments that were porcelain, and they're too heavy. They're really too heavy for a standard, real tree. So they just don't work. So we would alternate years between having a real tree with her ornaments and then a tree with my ornaments. Because I've got a lot of vintage ones, but like I know I have a lot of fairy ones that when resin stuff first came out, that resin was a lot heavier than the resin stuff you get now. You can pick up old resin stuff and know it's older because of how dense it is. It was incredibly heavy. And even with the fake tree, there's some Amy Brown fairies that I have that are very heavy. And if you don't put them far enough up the branch, even on a fake tree, they're bending it down. They're bending the wire. So I don't think we're having a tree this year. One year when I still had the storage units, but still didn't have. Yeah, you're right. I should go get that medicine. Michael surprised me because I was so tired and I hadn't been feeling well. I was getting over bronchitis. And he said, why don't you go to sleep in my room, because it's warmer in there because it was bright and sunny today. Go to sleep. Okay. I didn't care. I was still on antibiotics, so tired out. And I could hear him, but I could hear him going. I never heard him go up the steps to the 3rd floor, but I kept hearing him go down the steps to this from the 2nd to the 1st floor. And I wonder what he's doing. And I finally then conked out, and I woke up the next day and he had moved a bunch of the boxes. And this is right after we had moved a bunch of stuff in from house number 2. And he had put up the Christmas tree and decorated it. And I was so surprised. He had moved everything around, put some of the stuff up in the 3rd floor, up in what's now the packing room. So he'd taken some of the boxes out of here. Others, he just made the piles a little taller. But he, bless his heart, he knew I'd been having a rough year. I think it was the first, he wasn't out of high school yet. So I think it was the first, and he was still here. So it had to be before he went to go live with his dad to finish high school. So I think it was the year mom had died in May. I think it was that Christmas because it was such a struggle. Because they revoked one of his scholarships because the football coach was a jerk. Um, so once Mike refused to play on the varsity team, somehow one of the scholarships that had nothing to do with playing a sport vanished. And so it was a real struggle to finish paying for the year at Catholic high school. And that was his sophomore year. And I had worn myself out. I was working 2 jobs and trying to make up the extra, as well as trying to get through this stuff and get it on eBay. And I didn't have the book collection then. So I was just worn out. And that was one of his surprises for Christmas. And it still was. I think I just stood there and cried. Because one of the things I missed about having all these inheritances and then having to so much of it in the house. And at that point, I still had one storage unit left from mom and then one, well, 2 left, but one big one that I had. And that was full of the stuff from mom and dad and those units. And then so all the stuff from the last one had to come in here, but it wasn't all through the house. Some of it was in the attic, but then the most of it was in this room. And I just was so touched by that. So I'm going to disappear for a second, and I'm going to go put this box of Christmas goodness back. But I'm going to disappear so that I go get my blood pressure medicine before Nora comes through comes through the internet and smacks me. But to do that, I have to take this with me. I will be right back. I see you, Elron. What do you think you're doing? Knock the pillows off that wooden chair. It's a gorgeous chair, but that hard wood gets to you to sit on. Sorry that took so long. That blood pressure medication was upstairs. And man, could they make that stuff taste better? Tiny little pill, but it starts dissolving the minute it hits your tongue. It's nasty tasting stuff. But benefit, though, is I came down the steps and I saw a doctor out in the hallway. So grumpy kitty moved. Uh-oh. What? Yes? Oh, excuse me, sir. What do you want? I know what you want. I know what you want. Yeah. This is what you want, isn't it? It's what you want? You think it's bedtime, but it's Thursday. It's not bedtime. Yeah. Oh, must have all the pets. Look at this little suck up. Yes, Elron. I see you. Must have all the pets, huh? Yeah. He'll sleep like this sometimes. It makes it real hard to get anything done. Oh, not tonight, though, huh? Okay, go find your brothers and go play. So when I saw that the doctor had moved, I could get to the other box. Now, I haven't gone through anything in this box. Okay. I have a feeling I'll be putting a big lot of these things up onto eBay. So Farm Girl Scavenger sells old medicine bottles because those people who stack coins, they store them in these, and you make it in the listing what size coin it holds. But anyway, she moved so I could get to this. This is what I was talking about. The box is just kind of blank, and it's held together with little metal staples. So I love the old tape that's on it. But this is the one that reminds me, because like there was stuff from Germany that had boxes like this. It's still got this really old piece of tissue paper. And that, and you can see how small that end is. Really small. I really think this size might have been for a feather tree because that opening is really small. So that's the other topper. So that's going to also be at that sale. And you know what kills me is like, I'm so tempted to keep this, but I'd be so afraid to use it, is that, see how I have the red with the white? There are grapefruit-sized balls that were from Germany, and we all got one of each. One was all just red, blown glass, and then the other was red with white frosting on it like that. And they were all from Germany, and they looked like that. And there was just enough that we each got one. So all 6 of us got one. So that's the other topper. But not a mark on that thing other than the 39 cents, which was probably the original price. Now, I don't know what's in here. Apparently there's little, anybody? How many of these are there? There's 1, 2, 3. Wait, she actually has little metal eye things. Hook and eye. She's got little metal eyes. A little metal piece down in there. Somebody went to the trouble of making these nice. So there's some real pine cone ornaments. There's some more loose. Oh, these are different. Look how high up these are. Those other ones are more flat, but these seem higher. So there's some more reflectors. No, don't fall over. Don't want you falling off the edge of the desk because the cats will think you're a toy with how shiny you are. Oh, this is the baby doll. I knew it had to be in a box somewhere. But she said baby doll was fall. Oh, I see. I see. Baby doll is falling apart. She seriously is. Oh my goodness. She's not staying in the bag. Oh, there's holes in the bag. That's why. So, yeah. What is she stuffed with? The heck is that? Sawdust? So, it looks like the body, or at least the limbs, had been some kind of early vinyl, but it's completely fallen apart. Every time you touch it, it's just cracking. And there's sawdust coming out of her. But I'm curious to see. The face, I think, is porcelain. So no, the face is composite. Look at the ringlets on this hair. Look at that. Oh, and her eyes still work. Such a beautiful head. But the body, the limbs are just a total wreck. They're just a total loss. But I'll try to get it. See what it's doing? It's just so incredibly fragile. It's like some kind of early vinyl, and it's just completely fallen apart. You can actually see on here where some of it's trying to just stretch. But her head's composite. I don't know what that hair is made out of. You have glass eyes? Yeah, I think she has glass eyes. Such a darling face. I don't know what anybody could ever do with that. I mean, I know there are places where they can give her new limbs because the body is cloth. But yeah, that poor girl. Her limbs are toast, and she's packed with. But there's some on there. That's all sawdust. It's clean and lightweight, but it's all. She's packed tight with sawdust. Wow, I'm taking that box outside to see what I can do about getting her out of there. I mean, I might be able to sell her as a zombie doll. Who knows? But yeah, that's a mess in there in that bag. That'll be taken care of outside. And of course, it's in the box that has a gap in the bottom. So I'm trying to be so careful of the bag. Make sure it stays put. A little bit of it's on my jeans. So, yeah. So, well, at least that'll be an easy box to empty. But she wasn't kidding. That was her doll. That was her baby doll when she was young. And remember, she admits to being somewhere in the vicinity of 80. Whether that's before it or after it, she won't say. I know, she's too pretty to make a zombie out of. She really is. I really think, though, I would have to take those limbs off the rest of the way. Now, it is possible that the whole body may not. It may just be the limbs that are sawdust. She is a beautiful doll. I think she's going to end up in the eBay store as an as-is, and maybe there's somebody that knows what kind of doll it is and we really want one, because, I mean, if it's made of composite, my mom had a little boy doll that was composite, and my mom was born in 1929. So that's definitely a late 20s into the 30s doll. And I can't imagine there's too many of those around. Especially as once you get into the Great Depression, I can't imagine there's too many people that actually bought dolls for their kids. Because that would have been a fair expense. And she grew up on a farm. So they were out in farm in the Midwest. So it was her, and she did say something about it was her only doll. That's where she still had it. Definitely was well taken care of. It's just that time and age, whatever. Sometimes you get these things and it just kills you because they just fall apart when you touch them. I emptied a trunk once and I opened up this stunning Edwardian lace dress. And it looked beautiful laying in there. And then I lifted it up. And once I lifted it up, the lace literally started just dropping apart off of it like leaves dropping off a tree. It just disintegrated in my hands because the silk had just completely dry rotted. And it's like, can you imagine some of those beautiful gowns in the first year of Downton Abbey that have all that great overlay of lace, and you just pick it up and the whole thing just disintegrates in front of you in your hands? Oh, some stuff, sometimes age is not kind to stuff because either the way it was stored or just the way what it was made of, and you can't do anything about it. It is what happens. Time will get us all. Doesn't matter what you are. Time will get you sooner or later. So yeah, she is definitely too pretty. She is too pretty. So, oh my goodness. What's funny is I definitely feel more focused now. I think because it helps feeling like I'm accountable to you guys, that I have to check in with you. That's why I ask you guys sometimes, and half the time nobody puts any comment into the chat that they're working on something or that they're feeling frustrated or anything. But I do try to ask you guys how you guys are doing too. Well, I mean, what's there looks pretty clean, but we also don't know if it was ever stored in a hot attic. A hot attic can do a lot of harm to a lot of things. So we don't know. It could very well have been just a really hot attic that did a lot of harm. So, gee, am I the only one? Yeah, I am. I'm the only one live right now in the reselling community. Oh, for the silk? Yeah. Yeah. I do know, though, where that was stored was in a room at one of the community groups down in Arden. And it's a little room called the Gold Room. And there's no way to really open those windows. It's where on ground level, it's the showers and changing rooms for the Arden pool. But that room above it, there's no ventilation. It gets sunlight on two of the walls. It is stinking hot in the summer. It is an oven in there. And that's certainly not going to help it. Anything in there gets baked. And unfortunately, that's all we've got for storing our costumes. And there's no heat in that room either. So in the winter, then everything freezes. So that's a real problem for storage of stuff. Attics and basements kind of thing. Anywhere where it gets real hot is not kind. Absolutely not kind to things. So, let me double check something here. Nope. I was hoping for an email today from a scout, and certainly by this point in the day, he should be asleep. I don't have it emailed yet. Oh, well. I was looking at one of the local auction houses, Briggs. I've been watching their auctions, not because I'm planning on buying anything, but they currently have some auctions running that are very similar to things I know I have here. And so I'm trying to see, how are they doing for the price of those things? Because if it does well there, like, you guys aren't going to be interested in comic books from like the 80s and 90s. Well, mostly from the 70s and 80s. And to get them graded is a royal pain. None of them are in good enough shape, I don't think, to really get them graded. So if their auction is, if they do well with the lot they have, then that might be a place for me to send. That might be a good outlet to just send them all as a big lot and deal with it that way, because they're not all necessarily like the big names. They're not Superman, they're not Batman, they're not the big superheroes that are so hot right now. They're smaller runs. I know, like, I had some that were Buck Rogers. They were based on the television show, which was based on the old movie serial. But they're from like the early 80s. They're not really worth a lot. So it's not, I don't think it's worth paying the money to get it graded if it's not one of the ones that's really worth it. If I still had the Black Panther comic books that I had as a kid, I would absolutely, if they were in decent shape, get them graded and then sell them myself on eBay. But these are not like the big names. So God, if I had them and all the Wonder Woman comic books, I had a lot of Wonder Woman comic books, because that was the one I was buying for myself. Most of the other comic books I read, they were hand-me-downs from what my brothers read. So I read Sergeant Fury. I remember reading some Spider-Man, some Batman. I did like Green Arrow, Scarlet Witch. I did like her. There weren't too many. And by the time they got through at least 3 of us, then, they were not in great shape. Mad Magazine, Cracked Magazine. Yeah, now see, in my area, not necessarily everything will do well. There's a lot right now that I was surprised that is for a batch of corgis. Everything there's about 25 corgi figurines. Most of them are porcelain. And it's only now, this auction's all end tomorrow, but right now it's still sitting at $10 for a bunch of corgi figurines. And that's the kind of thing, if I didn't have all this stuff, I would snatch up in a heartbeat if I could get them all for $10. That's literally less than $1 per figure for the amount that's there. And I would always look for porcelain dog breeds, because if I could identify the breed, then you can make money on eBay that way, selling off porcelain figurines. But you must know the breed. The dog people, you gotta know the breed. And if you find a French bulldog, which is different from an English bulldog, boy, will you make money. There's very few things out there that are figurines of French bulldogs. And I had found a big one. He was probably about 8 inches high. It was porcelain. I can't remember if he was Natco or Ard, whatever it was. He wasn't a Lefton. He was one of the known names, but not as well known as like Lefton. And I got $176 for that thing. It cost $76 to ship it at the time. They insisted that they had to be express shipped to France. It was $76 just to ship the sucker. So, but people were fighting over that figurine. And it's all because it's not a breed that you would find very often. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. The last hour in auctions can that really can make a difference. The last hour in live auction, in any auction, whether it's live or through the internet live, definitely the last hour. I've watched some of my own auctions when I've had something high end that was going real well in my eBay stuff, where you don't know, even though you're seeing it on the screen, you don't know who's getting it until it's finally over, and then it tells you, because you're trying to refresh and see it move in real time, and sometimes that snipers at the last minute come in with a higher one. That sometimes happens on Mr. Buys a lot. That's what I've seen in a lot of the reseller community. They have a rule that when you get past going once, if you haven't bid before, you can't just suddenly appear at the end and sniper. A lot of the YouTube resellers, whether it's the vintage community or Mr. Buys a Lot, or some of the ones who do jewelry or clothing or more pop culture kind of stuff, a lot of them have that rule that you can't, if you haven't put in a bid before the going once, you certainly cannot sniper and do it afterwards. So I made a point, I think the last sale, I made a point of saying we aren't gonna, because there were quite a few new people. And I'm back below. I had some new people, and then they did their usual, let's purge some numbers, and so I'm back below the 1,160. I was up to 1,162, and now I'm back below it again. We'll get there eventually. I'll get there. It will eventually get there. So, oh my goodness. Yeah, Trisha, I've seen Trisha do that. Trisha has opened it back up. I think Lisa does too. On Flippin' Crazy, I think she opens hers back up. Yeah, because I'm not a fan of the sniping. Actually, that's probably for the seller's point of view, that's probably the best way to do it, is to open the bidding back up all the way. I do like, and I learned it off Lisa from Flippin' Crazy, I do like her thing of asking people to let us know when you're out, so that way if it gets down to just one person or just two people and then one of them says they're out, then you can go ahead and call it and start calling going once. So I did learn that from her, and that's helpful. That's very helpful, because that does help keep things moving. Because there's going to be a lot of offer ups. If I do Christmas stuff, it's going to end up being a lot of offer ups. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, that's one of the things I don't like about us. If you really wanted it, you should have bid along the way. And sometimes I've had it happen where it was somebody, like, there's a bunch of stuff from a sale that was the night that I had Lisa on my channel, and there were quite a few new people. And there was somebody who bid several things up and ended up being the winner. She never, ever, ever contacted me. And I got her information because she had occasionally bought things from Lisa. And she ghosted me. She never answered, ever. And then when Lisa said something to her, I think Lisa said that she stopped showing up at Lisa's sales for a while. So I thought, so now I'll have that stuff. It's in the dining room. So that stuff will all end up coming out to another sale at some point. But that's one thing I've seen be a problem with the sniper, is that the sniper person who comes in at the very end there and bids it up and doesn't, if it's somebody new, you get kind of worried because you don't know if they're going to ghost you. And I've had that happen. I've had that happen in a couple of drop sales too, where I've never heard from the person. And drop sales are even harder because you're not actually like seeing the person in the chat. That's just a comment left. So, so there is still active the cookbook drop sale. I thought those were a good choice of cookbooks to put up too, because I thought some of them were kind of fun, because that cooking with a blender one cracked me up. I have to admit, that one that said the tropical hot chocolate, I would definitely do that if I knew I had I don't know. We might have a blender. It might be in the kitchen cabinet, or it could be in the pantry, because it still worked when we got rid of the dishwasher it had been sitting on. The dishwasher hadn't worked in years. So I didn't get rid of it. I don't think I got rid of it. But I don't know where it is. And the tropical hot chocolate, what they did is you would take the milk and a banana, and you'd run that through the blender, and then you'd put it in a pan and add the cocoa powder and sugar to your taste, and that was your hot chocolate as it's heating up. That's tropical hot chocolate. And I looked at that and I was like, I love bananas and I love chocolate and I like chocolate with bananas. That's good. I love that idea. I would do that. But I'd never seen a whole cookbook devoted to stuff you can make using the blender. Where was that when I was in college? I think there were two that were on French cooking. One looked a lot easier than the other. One was the whole menu. Like each thing would give you an entire menu from a salad to a dessert, which was a nice option. And then one of them was for ones on a budget, and I had to laugh because in the back of it, the end paper part on the back has all the average prices for the time that the book was printed. I'm not getting a dozen eggs for 54 cents. Eggs haven't been 54 cents for a dozen for decades. So I had a good laugh looking at some of the prices they have in the back. But it did have some nice, good recipes in it and some good tips. So there's still a lot of good ones left, because I've only sold one so far, the Fanny Farmer cookbook, and I marked it on the drop sale video. That has sold. I have to get that packed up and invoiced. Someone does want that one. But the rest are all fair game still, because she gave me 2 boxes of cookbooks a long while ago, and so yeah, they've been finally got to them and got them pulled out and looked at them, and I think I found 4 that are going to end up in my eBay store, and then put a lot of the others onto the drop sale. And then there's still a box on the staircase that has about 5 of them that I still have to look up, that I think would be better going onto eBay than into a live sale, just simply because of the age that they are and the type that they are. So let's see, anything else you guys want to talk about tonight? I'm definitely not as brain fogged as I was when I started, but I shouldn't go too late tonight. We may just make this a 2-hour thing and have me leave it at 1, because I did not hear from my friend today, which means then, and there was a message, a text on my phone that she said, and it was very weird because it was like I was, where the train of thought just kind of jumps all over, because it's October now. She's got to be out by sometime by the end of this month, and he's not ready. So she's working on several. The gist of it is that I could figure out was she's working on several things. She has somebody coming to help, and she just can't deal with more than one person in the house helping her at one time, because it just gets too, they try to move too fast. You have to be, when you're helping somebody out, you always got to be conscious of their abilities. And yes, this has to get done, but at the same time, you got to respect the fact that at her age, she's not going to move as fast as you might. Just be aware of that and be conscious of it and make adjustments for that. So she says she's probably going to call me tomorrow morning, and I will go over, and she's not sure whether she'll have me come over for the day and help her sort and pack stuff, or if I'm just coming over to do a Goodwill run for her. And then she counteracted that right in the same message and went, no, that's not right, because I already have 2 boxes just for you, which is like that doll and the Christmas stuff. Those were just for me. Those weren't for Goodwill. Those were just for me. And so, because that she wanted to hire me, and because she's been giving me so much stuff and telling me, look, if you can resell that, resell it. I won't let her pay me cash for, I try not to let her. Let's say there's been an argument about that. I try not to let her. Because I feel she is paying me by letting me have the stuff. And so we butt heads a little bit there. But she's already got some boxes for me, so I don't know what I'm walking into tomorrow, but she's hoping she will have enough that I have to do 2 runs, that one will be just Goodwill stuff for me to sort through and see what I want and then take to Goodwill, and then one that's just, and then come back and fill my car up with stuff just for me. Now, she hasn't filled the car totally in a long time. She has absolutely filled the trunk and then maybe 1 or 2 things in the back seat, but she hasn't had enough to fill the car, all of the back seat and the trunk, in a long while. But she's really pushing herself this week. So luckily the weather's been good. It hasn't been too awful warm, because I do worry about her trying to push herself. She did try to push herself hard on the weekend, though, because her granddaughter was up. So I know tomorrow I will be getting a call, and I will probably wake up to the phone, because usually I sleep in a little bit on Fridays when I'm up with you guys. So next week will be a sale. For any of you that missed last week's sale, this wonderful Amberina is still available. I still have this lovely piece. I kind of think that would be really cool. You know what this would be cool for? Is like for the fall, if you got like those little tiny mini pumpkins and just filled it up with them, I think would be so cool looking for autumn. And then for Christmas time, you could just put greenery coming out of it, or Christmas balls. Just fill it up with Christmas balls. Would be really cool. But that piece is still available. I forget what price I had set it at. I think we were trying to do that as an offer up, and nobody bit. Nobody bit for that one, I think. Well, I know they didn't, because it wouldn't still be here. What do we have on that sucker? Yeah, I was starting it at $8 for the, and it is flash Amberina, so the color is on there on the outside as flash Amberina. So yeah, if anybody's interested in that for $8, just let me know. It's still available. So I am. Oh yeah, bittersweet is pretty. Bittersweet is definitely pretty. I'm gonna go and let this be a short one tonight. And I will see you guys next week. Thursday will be a live sale. I don't yet know what I'll have. Now that Scouts is pretty much squared away, the kids who are going to advance are going to be at Wednesday's meeting, even though it's a patrol leader conference meeting. They will be coming anyway to get their Scoutmaster conferences done so that they can have border reviews the following weekend. And at that point, this week was all or nothing. That's why I was just so, going nuts about the scouting this week, is because to get them through so much stuff, we had this week or not at all, just because of the way the calendar falls. So there's a trip this weekend that they're on, and there's some kids that if they don't go on that trip, they're not advancing because they haven't gone camping. Summer camp doesn't count for some of these requirements. You have to go camping in a tent that you yourself have put up. So we got a couple kids that I know, there's one at least who said he wasn't going on the trip. And there's a couple others that if they bail on the trip, they're not going to advance either. So things will be calmer for me this weekend because I'm not on this trip. And so we got through everything on Wednesday night that we possibly could. And next week won't be as crazy. So I can spend this weekend. I want to spend this weekend absolutely just focused on Tosh, hyper-focused. Mike's still going to be around, but I don't care. I told him all I want to hear from him is I want to hear the whirring of a lawnmower cutting the grass on Saturday morning. That's all I can. Other than that, I'm not going anywhere with you. No, we're not. It's got to do this all this weekend. So I will say goodnight now and see you guys next week. Depending on how much stuff I get through will depend on if there's a new drop sale coming out next week. At the moment, all the previous drop sales that were not books, I still have that stuff. So if you see anything from them, put it in the comments. I have the comments sorted by newest, so I always get a notice when there's a new comment on something. But as for the stuff that was books, other than the cookbooks, some of those are still here. I want to pack that stuff up and drop it off at the library tomorrow from the last one. And because I found a few I missed. And pack an invoice and clear my path again. And I've still got to find a place to put this stuff. I haven't figured out where the flannel that didn't sell for my sale is going till I can get to the point where I can put it onto eBay. I don't have a good place to lay this much yardage out to cut it. So it was one thing cutting a piece down in half, like I had to do one because somebody only wanted 1 yard of something. But 8 yards is a lot to have to do that with. So before I go putting that onto eBay or Etsy, I need to get back into my dining room. I also need to get back in there because some of you are waiting for things that are still in there, like some dollhouse furniture that are safely in the little drawers. But because of bringing stuff in from my friend's house, I've now blocked the way into the dining room, which has 2 boxes of stuff, including a Viking ship for somebody that needs to go that I know you all are waiting for and want. So that's my plan for the weekend. I hope you have success whether it's small success or big success. I just hope you have success this weekend on whatever you plan on tackling this weekend. Whether it's, the weather in a lot of the areas of the country are starting to get cooler, whether it's cleaning out a coat closet to just check and see that they're okay or whatever. Yeah, you could. With 8 yards, you could make matching pajamas for a whole family. You'd have to lay it out carefully, but I'll bet you could. So you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you next Thursday. And I have to check. Here's the last thing I'm going to say. I know you guys like it when I do a work with me, but I have to see when is the flip over date on StreamYard for hours, because I don't pay for StreamYard. I use the free one, but that means you only have a set number of hours to work with. Now, I've gotten close most months where I've not hit that spot where you run out of hours. I need to find out, is now when I need to be careful and save some of those hours for the birthday sale party? Or does that flip happen before then and I can then stay on all night? So I haven't tried Restream. I do have a note stuck here to look into that one. And what was the one? Oh, I'm going to have to ask Lori Ann again. Lori Ann is Sugar Britches. She's selling on some place other than I can't think what it's called now. She's selling at some place online that's nothing but vintage. And it's kind of like eBay, but it's not. And I don't know. I know it's not Ruby Lane. It started with a V, and I can't remember what the devil it was. So I want to look into Restream, and I want to look into this place where she's selling some of her vintage stuff and see how that does. So I got my own research to do. So you guys have a good night. Have a good weekend. And if you don't see me before then, I will see you at 11 o'clock next Thursday for a live sale. Good night, everybody.